Welcome to my lockdown walk. This is the third, the final, and probably the longest part of my very first attempt to make a guided walk video. It's a lovely sunny, unfortunately quite windy spring day. So far I've toured a graveyard and an old village dump site. Now I'm heading along the top edge of the Calden Valley in West Yorkshire. I'll drop down into the woods and by the river, foraging along the way. And we'll see some old mill workings, quite a variety of scenery, and hopefully some wildlife. These woods are, for the most part, natural growth, but they're not old. Most of the trees here aren't much more than 100 years old, and there's not much information available on why that is, so I can suppose, and I can guess, and what I think is that the mills down in the valley bottom felled most of the previous woodland as fuel for steam power. Some of it would have gone for construction and firewood for local inhabitants, but the mills that were built during the first wave of the Industrial Revolution, around about 1800 to 1810 in this particular valley, they were big, worsted cloth weavers. The previous, small-scale mills used water power and built stream runs and water wheels, and although the new mills had water wheels as a backup, their primary power sources were huge, hungry steam engines. Put a tree in one end, get mechanical work out the other. Here's the first foraging patch, and it's nothing particularly special. There will be blackberries here later in the year, but for now it's just rosebay willow herb. The young leaves at the top taste a bit like lettuce. I'm taking a few of the low down leaves and a bit of a stalk too, so that when I get home I can stand them up in a glass with a centimetre of water in the bottom till they're quarantined properly, and that'll keep them fresh. I'm not damaging the plants beyond their capacity to heal and grow. They're a rampant weed. And over here there's a patch of false yellow archangel, which has likely escaped from the garden on the other side of the wall, making the landowners there liable to a minor criminal charge under Schedule 9 of the Wildlife and Countryside Act, 1981. It's not particularly tasty, but the fresh flowers and young leaves sit fine in a salad. I'm not meaning to pull up a lot of the stalk, but I'm aware that there's some people coming up behind me, and I'm perhaps rushing more than I usually would to not be here when they are. Not far now to the next stop, and I do want to be off the path a safe distance when the people come. Here we are, which most of the year is a little stream bed, and combined with the shade given by the trees creates ideal conditions for a small patch of ramsons, common name wild garlic. I can smell it from the path. Right, we're a safe distance from any path now, and I see no sign of anyone else having picked from this patch, so I'm going to pick a few leaves from each plant, taking care to make sure it's ramsons I'm picking and not something that just looks like it. I will check again after they've been quarantined and I'm about to use them. There might be things that look like them, but there's nothing that both looks and smells like them. There's a cat over there, just sat on a rock in the woods, enjoying the day. I have picked enough for at least 1 jar of pesto, and looked right, looked left, seen no other walkers to avoid just at the moment. Catch my breath, and onwards. This is a tricky part of the route. Can't always see far ahead, so I'm listening carefully and will scoot off the path if I hear anyone oncoming. I might be breathing a little heavily. I've been in lockdown a while now and my fitness has suffered, but I can still move when I have to. I hope you don't mind when I don't talk much. Woodland is wonderful to be in, but rhapsodizing about it just doesn't do it justice, and when there isn't a human element to frame it, like a millpond or a chimney or relics found in rivers, I will struggle to maintain a flow of coherent talk that's interesting and doesn't just babble like the brook or taper away, carried off into the wind. So, music. We'll try that, but let me know for future walks if silence, or rather birdsong and my laboured breathing, is preferential. Check up to make sure no one's coming down. I may be going up later on the way back, but for now, it's down. And the first building down this track is the former home of the past Poet Laureate of the UK, Ted Hughes, and for a few years Sylvia Plath lived there too. It's a writer's retreat nowadays. Then further down, there's not much left of a fairly large mill complex. Just a few mill cottages, a building or two that were probably part of the lower mill, some patches of mostly removed ruins, and 2 large chimneys. But we're not going to see any of that till later in the video, because I want to get some common bistort first for some experiments in cooking. As it's here, and so am I shall take a few honesty flowers. They're in the brassica family and can taste a bit like broccoli, which I like. Lovely colourful addition to a salad. I haven't tried cooking them yet, but it's on my list of things to try soon. Some green alkanet. Not really to my taste, but edible and my girlfriend likes it. As with everything I've picked, please only do so yourself if you know for sure what it is you're picking. The flowers of this one in particular look quite like forget-me-nots, and most varieties of forget-me-nots are toxic. just a little further, a patch of common bistort. It really is quite common, so there's plenty of patches around in the UK. And what I'm looking to pick are the fresh grown leaves, very thin and still curled up, and really it's the stalks I want. A gentle pull sometimes, not having much success at it today because it's not rained in a while, but a gentle pull can release the whole stem, which has a nice pink at the bottom, and that's where the nice fresh lemony flavour is strongest. The zing of the flavour comes from oxalic acid, which is also in rhubarb and Swiss chard, and also beetroot, peanuts and tea. In high enough amounts it will cause stomach upsets. It's a toxin, but it is tasty. I've picked enough, so onwards. I've scoped it out and there's no sign of anyone oncoming, and this way is the way I wish to go, so let's hope that if anyone's coming this way they'll look before boxing me in. Gorse, my girlfriend thinks the flowers taste a bit like coconut, but I think they taste a bit like eating a tea bag. Crikey, this blustery weather will be doing no favours to the sound on this video. Anyway, down this little track which goes to fields and paths, there's an odd creation. It's a roughly diamond-shaped piece of ground that once upon a time someone took the time to tend. Here we are. This little bit of land is still tended by people who see the value of what one man several decades ago dedicated a sizable portion of his time to do. See, the trees here are rarities, odd cultivars and ones which don't usually thrive in Yorkshire. He made a place that they could thrive. Even the rocks in this plot are placed according to his own particular taste. He made himself an arboretum in the middle of nowhere. The holly has been well and truly trimmed, and I agree, it was getting a little out of hand. The rabbits loved it though. This is the first time I've seen this place on such a nice spring day. It's different every time I visit, but always has a pleasant feeling about it. Time to head onwards. We're heading into an area of beechwood, which I'm told was deliberately planted in Victorian times, so it's the only unnaturally seeded part of these woods, and this is also a quarry, which I believe provided the stone for most of the trackways through this woodland. The trackways don't always make sense. There are a lot of them, and some of them go to nowhere. I've heard that this is because it was navvies who built them, employed after the local reservoirs were completed in 1908. They were paid to build tracks, even where there was no need for tracks. The motivation for this is unrecorded. Perhaps it was seen as an investment, or perhaps it was a fear of what might happen with more than 500 itinerant workers out of work in the area. Actually, let's go down to the river. I can hear people on the path up ahead. I call it a river, but it's not really big enough. I think it's what's known here as a water, which in other countries might be a brook. And for those wanting to follow along on Google Maps, this is the Calden Water in Calden Clough, West Yorkshire, UK. Now, I'm not really allowed to mudlark. The waterways of the UK are officially closed, but the rules of lockdown are a little ambiguous about where I can take my exercise. Perhaps I can rock hop upstream. Ooh, a brick. And a piece of terracotta pottery. There's a belt there, and I'm recording this on Beltane, and a nice bit of blue and white pottery. I just can't seem to stop myself from looking, and I must admit I feel much more relaxed already. There's something quite stressful about having to be aware of other people coming through the wood on the same path behind you and towards you, and planning your moves accordingly. And down here on the banks of a stream, it's simpler. There's things to find and rocks that'll trip you, but so rarely another person. There's wild garlic, and I'll hazard a guess there'll be wood sorrel too somewhere. I absolutely am not here to mudlark. I'm here for exercise and fresh air, glorious springtime light in lovely woodlands, and a bit of foraging. A little bit of rough glass, and some pottery pieces, and some wild garlic. Now I'm pretty sure no one's touched it, and not even the water has touched it for at least a few weeks, so it's COVID-19 safe. A nice little war-grade bottle stopper. So, let me know if you think I should do a mudlarking video here when lockdown restrictions have been lifted. I'm pretty much sure not to find much, but the views are nice. Having said that I wouldn't find much, of course I find something, which looks quite unusual as bricks go. Looks like there's a new phantom stone stacker around. It doesn't look like the handiwork of the one who operates in town. It's a simpler country style, less showy and more robust. Some marsh marigold, not recommended for eating, toxic. I don't know what the tiny plant with light green flowers nearest the water is. A nice sunny patch of common bistort, proving how common it is, and over here a patch of wood anemone, a very pretty flower that some dark legends have attached to over the millennia. It was said that the first of them sprung up where the tears of Aphrodite fell as she grieved for her lost Adonis. It's been said of them that when it rains, fairies take shelter in the flowers and close them up to keep dry, and they're seen as unlucky in European folklore. In Chinese culture, they're known as the flower of death, and yes, they are poisonous. But they're also a sign that there's been woodland here for a long time. Not necessarily the same woodland, but at least 400 years of the wood in this valley. I waited and waited with camera at the ready, and no fairies came. I was just picking a little more bistort when I turned round and spotted this, the prized little tasty morsel known as wood sorrel. Like the bistort, its tastiness comes from oxalic acid, but it's more lemony in the sorrel, a very tasty plant. Like before, a few leaves from each part should leave the population healthy. I don't think I need to show all the picking I'm going to do. There's quite a few little patches around here, so... I've come across a wheel and suspension of quite an old car. I found both before, but not together, so some of the axle must be under the rocks. And some of the axle housing. With another bit of axle and another suspension spring further on, so it looks like maybe the whole car went into the river. Another wheel over there that I hadn't spotted. Wonder if I'll find the rest of it. That stonework was built to hold a millpond, probably in the year 1800. It's mostly silted up now, a little slightly wet mud habitat. And there must have been a pipeline of some kind taking the water down to the mill, which is maybe 200 metres downstream. We're getting to one of my favourite parts of the river, where the sculptural slabs of bedrock are exposed, and there's little pools of water with baby fish fleeing the sight of me, too fast for the camera, and the pools do make rock hopping upstream more challenging, but today at least, with the water so low, it's not insurmountable. Nope, slippy place. Safety first. Oh, sorry, Lady Mallard. did not mean to scare you, but alas, I'm going to again. Little cauldrons where the water has spun rocks so fast and for so long that they've drilled into the bedrock. A walker and a weir. This is pretty much as far as I'm going to go today. The old packhorse bridge is a nice turning point. Nobody seems to know exactly how old it is. Somewhere between 300 and 400 years is the best guess, but could be older. In 2018, a tree fell on it and cracked one of the monolithic slabs. Not really noticeable from above, but it was lying in the stream in 2 pieces. On the side you can see the join point, but only underneath can you see what was necessary, channels cut out of the stone to hold heavy-duty steel pins to form a permanent internal scaffold covered over with cement. Nothing but a subtle cement line visible on top. And now we get to walk back towards Heptonstall in wonderful light. That's the weir that channels water towards the millpond, and there's a ditch on the other side of the path, called a goit or goet, which is a mostly Yorkshire and Lancashire word derived from Old English, and it means a small artificial water channel. The silted up millpond, home to many different species of insect and plant. Another patch of wild garlic, which dwarfs the others I've seen in this valley, and it's further on in its growth, so here I'll pick some of the flowers, 1 or 2 from each plant, none from ones which only have 1 or 2 flowers out now. They'll go well in salads, soups, pestos, curry, stews, a very strong garlicky flavour, about 4 times stronger than the leaves I think, and even stronger than cloves of garlic. I love the trees in this stretch. They're so twisted. Obviously grew up in a time when there was very little competition for light, and as we get towards patches of younger trees, even of the same species, they'll be growing straighter, reaching for whatever light they can get. Down there is the ruins of another millpond. It's much closer to the mill, and I suspect some of the stone got taken from it for other building projects like these pathways. Down here is the remains of a weir. Nothing man-made can last forever, and this one probably won't be recognisable as a weir in another century or so. There's a person coming, so I've got to get off this narrow path and socially distance. Ahead of us now, the flat place down there was the site of a large mill complex, and really only a few bits of it remain. The plateau itself sits over the river. There's the chimney, obviously, a few small buildings downriver, and this tunnel, which brings a spring out of the hillside, and it does seem an awful lot of engineering for a very small spring of water. Perhaps it had a much bigger flow 220 years ago. You know, one day that chimney is liable to topple. The rain is slowly washing away the hillside it's standing on. I think it's going to have to be demolished before that happens. It can't realistically be saved in the long term, and if it falls on the plateau it could collapse the tunnel, blocking the stream and create a large unintentional pond. It might make a good swim spot, or more likely a huge mess. Probably the newest engineering feature on this stream, most of it being channeled away to run through a hydroelectric turbine generator. It does leave a short section of the stream bed running almost dry, but renewable energy generation is admirable. The Lower Mills chimney, again dating from about 1808. I once filmed a river walk up from the mouth of the stream up to that point, but the camera malfunctioned and disappeared the first half of it. Now there'll be fewer interesting things to find in the river, because I already took them. Have to keep moving, there are walkers about. The camera is running low on battery and I'm a bit low on energy, and so I think I shall have to round off the video here. This track is the one we crossed earlier, and I'll follow it up past the Writer's Retreat to the top of the hill and then walk down through Heptonstall village. This was my first attempt at a guided walk video, so although it's got similarities to my mudlarking videos, it's been a challenge. If you have any advice on how I could improve upon it if I do another, then please do say so in the comments. If you have enjoyed it, then please give it a like, a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell icon to get notifications of new content when it goes live, share if you know other people who you think might enjoy it, and I have a Ko-fi account linked in the description for if you wish to buy me a hypothetical coffee. I hope you're all keeping safe and healthy and helping people if you can. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.